Hello and welcome to our report card for the summit. If you haven't seen one of these before, basically what I do is go back and revisit a ball that's been out for a few months to check in, see how popular it's been, see if I got it right in the review, and report on how much we've used it and what it's best at. Also, since it is a report card, I will actually be giving out grades, or a rating rather, using the new Kool-Aid meter. The staffers always robe up and pass the cups out for every new release, but are they still drinking it a few months down the road? Before we get started, big shout out and thanks as always to Royal Crest Lanes. They're a big part of bringing these videos to you. All it takes is a text and we have everything we need. Also, my code ROSEDALL10 will get you 10% off your order at checkout at CoolWick, and if you check the description, you'll find a bunch of helpful links and information, including our personal specs, a discount code for custom ball cups and spinners through Scarred Prints, even a discount code for a new affiliation with Free Spirits, which features non-alcoholic replacements for things like whiskey, tequila, and gin for those looking or needing to cut back on and or quit drinking, and finally a link to buy a summit at Bowler's Mart. I do receive a 5% commission on all sales through the link. We're on the Kegel Chromium Link Edition as usual. It's a challenge pattern at just under a 7-to-1 ratio, 42 feet long, 25.5 mils, so that's the heavy side of medium for both volume and length. Not as easy as a house shot, but not as punishing as a sport pattern. The Summit features a somewhat new cover and a somewhat new core. The new TX23 cover is an updated version of TX16 that's on the Phase 2. It really just sounds and feels like they buffed the strength. The core is the centripetal HD core from the Sonic and Supersonic, but with a twist. There's a new outer core concept called AI, or Amplified Inertia, that both drives the RG down and the differential up, making the core itself stronger, but they also claim it helps the ball carry better. More on that in a minute. What it is at surface value is a very strong and heavy rolling, but not quite chuggy symmetric ball that very evenly rolls throughout the lane. It never seems to rev up much, but is probably the most stable and controllable ball that I've ever thrown. It doesn't do anything in a hurry, it's very patient, and while it does somewhat fake you out with how much it actually hooks because of how slow and gradual it does everything, that gives it a wild amount of room on the lane. It's so strong and rolly that it'll get back from misses out, but smooth enough that it holds well on misses in addition to hooking enough to get it there when you throw it a bit too hard. But the one thing it doesn't tolerate naturally is getting slow. It's too strong and early for that. Once again, we reset our surfaces. Angel's is 1000 React to Scuff, and I went 1000 Light Step 2. It gives you a couple different looks, and we always recommend resetting factory surfaces anyway, even if you just end up back at the same surface it's supposed to be out of the box. For Angel, this is almost exactly the type of ball she usually matches up well with. She loved the original Sonic. That was actually the first ball review I featured her in going years back, fun fact. But more recent and familiar similarities as far as roll, but not necessarily strength, would be the Duo, Nova, Hustle USA, etc. This one still is a little different, and it's almost a little too relaxed for her, so to speak. The rest gradually walk up and rev somewhat. This one just doesn't. I'm going to try to explain this, so bear with me, but you know how when you pick something up and it's extra heavy for its size, it just feels super dense? That's what the Summit reminds me of. It rolls like it's trying to drop straight through the lane or something, if you get what I'm talking about. It rolls like such a tank, but it doesn't really bog down, it doesn't chug. It's too slow and flat on occasion, but that's just the nature of the ball's general reaction shape. Strong and smooth balls are going to do that, just like the sharper or more responsive ones tend to dive through the nose sometimes. The strength and general shape fits well for her, she just needs a bit more revving than it's giving her to finish with more authority. For me, it's perfect, but it was a weird road getting there. It's definitely a lefty ball, strong early and smooth, but the problem is that while it looks great on this, it was just too strong when I tried to use it in league at first. Sometimes bowling on this pattern sucks because with extra volume and length, the stronger stuff looks great while filming, which gets me excited, and then it's just not throwable on a house shot, so it sits around like a lot of other stuff waiting for a sweeper or a tournament on something tough, only for me to end up most of the time just getting forced into urethane. This one rolled so good and was so close to working that I'd take it every so often to give it another chance, and it just kept being over-under. If I got it down the lane, it was too slow, and if I got it to shape, it was too early. I changed surfaces, and I was close to giving up. But one day, I moved an arrow deeper and kind of soft hand faded the middle with it, and that was the magic. Oddly enough, it seems to like angle despite rolling like a ball that wouldn't, but it doesn't ever puke or give up. Again, it can be too slow, but if you feed it oil, it likes the slow hook quite a bit. At the same time, it likes the dump up 10 too, and here's where I'm just going to chug the Kool-Aid. I roll my eyes at a lot of marketing angles, specifically like hitting harder. USB-C has a limit on coefficient of restitution, which basically measures how hard a ball can hit, or how bouncy it can be, so to speak. And if hitting power was an attribute that could be built into a ball, why wouldn't they just make every ball hit hard? The thing is that you don't really want stuff to hit too hard because you want a ball to properly deflect through the pins so it carries better. Hitting harder throws pins around, but it doesn't necessarily consistently get them down. One of the selling points on the AI outer core is that it supposedly carries the off hits better, and I'll be damned if it doesn't. I shot my first 300 in a while with it the night that everything clicked. The next trip out I had the front 9, a week later I had the front 11 again. I've had several 700s with it in just the last month and a half. I had a very successful tournament weekend with it a couple weeks ago, and it's turned into a running joke because it has like old guy carry built into it. You know when the 60 plus crowd just kind of dumps a ball down 10 and it's not pretty but the pins just fall down? That's what this ball does, and it's actually starkly visible. All I have to do is get it off my hand in decent shape in the right general direction, and even though it's ugly sometimes, they just fall down, and as reluctant as I am to buy into marketing points, I gotta give this one its due credit. In my opinion, it's actually a thing, and I've heard the same from several other people who are having the same experience. My average with this ball has been significantly noticeably higher, and it's partially because I'm throwing it better, but it's higher versus every other ball I've thrown during the last couple months. I hit the pocket just as much with everything else, this ball just gets the pins down more often. I used to make jokes about dynamic core with the B7 staffers, but all I can say now is that at least Kool-Aid makes the crow go down easier. For Angel, it's a 7. It rolls like other stuff she really likes, but it's just a bit too slow or reserved. It doesn't really wind up. Now I wouldn't call it lazy or say it labors, it's just a little too heavy of a roll to move very quickly on the back end, and that makes it not fit as well for her as some other stuff. Again, it's definitely not bad. Aside from the random flat 10 here and there, it looks good, but since we throw absolutely everything, our standards are fairly high given that something has to be outstanding to make it into the bag. This one just doesn't quite make the cut for her. For me, it's my first 10. I've had some really good looks on the left side and some stuff I keep in the bag, but even the pro motion isn't the quality of look of this ball. From talking to others, it seems like it's not just me that it's a magical matchup for. A lot of other people that really understand this ball, like I finally do, feel the same. It just seems to work virtually all the time on all kinds of things, and it's surprisingly versatile in ways you wouldn't expect. It's definitely too early to call it a GOAT or put it on my all-time list, but it's already done a lot of big things for me, and every time I decide not to throw it, I always end up in it and regret that I didn't start with it. I have a review up for the Summit covering it from several different angles, plus a handful of comparison videos if you want to check those out. Down in the description is a link to Bowler's Mart that will get one ordered for you. Also, of course, don't forget my code ROSEDALL10 to get 10% off your order at checkout at CoolWick. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.